Now let's start with auditing standards, basically with audit report. In the audit report, we state we have conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Non-compliance to this statement will lead to penal action under Section 21 of Chartered Accountants Act, may result in disciplinary action for non-compliance of auditing standards while carrying out the audit. So let's try to understand these auditing standards. Major auditing standards we have to comply as a part of bank audit. Audit documentation. Audit documentation is not just a simple checklist where we put on followed, yes, no, all right. It's an audit documentation with respect to the opinions expressed. Audit documentation should have how I have carried out analytical procedure. Audit documentation should have the support of audit samplings that I have picked up. Audit documentation should have the study of SA 315. Audit documentation should have audit planning. Audit documentation should have the communication between the auditor and management. Now, this is SA 240, auditors responsibility relating to fraud. Before we understand this, we need to understand early warning signals issued by the RBI and SA 240. The effect of ineffective controls on fraud is well described in Appendix 1, 2, 3 of SA 240. We need to understand. As a part of corporate governance, the bank management is also responsible for consideration of laws and regulations in the financial statements. Even an auditor has to consider laws and regulations in an audit of financial statements. Then communicate with those charged with the governance, those deficiencies we have observed. Plan an audit. Before planning an auditor needs to understand SA 315. Collect evidences of material misstatements. Make analytical procedures. Analytical procedures helps us in deciding on the audit sampling. Collect written representations with the management, communicating to them through SA 260 and 265 through an audit note, and finally conclude. Let's try to sum up all the auditing standards through one simple flowchart. Now, assertions. The financial statements carry assertions. Those assertions are existence, completeness, valuation, rights and obligation, presentation and disclosure. The financial statements has an item of fixed assets. The fixed asset should be in existence. Auditor has to carry out an audit test through compliance test and substantive test and analytical procedures that the values mentioned for the fixed assets are true and fair. So in this way, the value of loans and advances, the valuation is true and fair. That I can state only by carrying out the audit test against compliance and substantive test through analytical procedure. As a part of audit test, compliance and substantive procedures are carried out, and if I am able to highlight the risk of material misstatements, those observations are communicated to the management, those charged with management, those charged with governance. If observations are agreed, if required material, then a provision needs to be carried. For example, if an audit test of compliance and substantive procedure indicates deficiencies of controls around the banking operations, which is resulting in under-disclosed NPAs, then those observations, if management agrees, needs to be provided as per IRAC norms. And in my earlier video, we have understood the impact of frauds and NPAs. So here, we have to spend much time on compliance and substantive procedures because there is an indication in the banking industry that the frauds and NPAs are understated. Hence, we have to spend good amount of time on compliance and substantive procedures. Now, coming back again, if the management doesn't agree, there is no possibility to rectify, then they can disclose in the notes on accounts certain issues. And as an auditor, if such observations are not having an effect on the material misstatement, those things can be brought onto the face of the audit report through an emphasized matter. This is in short the total audit process. As an auditor, I need to document the total process flow in support of my opinion.